The beautiful wedding day begins, with a flower-adorned archway awaiting the start of the ceremony. The bride, draped in a white veil, contemplates the extraordinary day, her blue eyes showing solemn determination. Whispers circulate that she is to marry a boy of only 8. The young, dark-haired groom stares ahead with a determined gaze. The bride stands alone before the aisle, walking forward with a heavy heart. Guests murmur about the reason for the marriage, suspecting a monetary transaction involving a connection between the bride's late mother and the Duchess of Baldwin. They conclude it is a marriage in name only, meant to protect the young Grand Duke after his father's death. The young groom reaches out to lift her veil, gently raising the lace that covers her face. The blonde bride looks down at him in surprise, while the red-eyed boy gazes up at her, captivated. The wedding of the young bride and groom officially begins, and she is well aware of the rumors that she is marrying for money. She glances at her young husband, thinking he knows it all too. The boy stands proudly by her side. He takes her hand, calling her his wife. The young groom looks up at his bride with adoration. She fondly remembers his sweet promise. She clutches her bouquet, a ring now on her finger. It was a promise she could never fulfill. In a terrifying flash of light, she falls to her death. She lies broken in the rain, thinking this can't be real. Her trembling hand reaches for a nearby letter. It's an invitation from her husband, Haney, to his graduation ceremony. She laments that she was supposed to be there to congratulate him. As her consciousness fades, she whispers his name, "Hey, Haney." She recalls a happy memory of the adult Haney. He holds her hand as a final tear rolls down her cheek. The face of her young husband appears in her mind. With one last sad smile, she passes away. Her dying wish is for Haney to forget her and find happiness. Her final thought is a happy one as heavy rain pours down, shrouding the distant castle. As rain beats against the castle, a man jolts awake in his bed. He runs a hand through his dark hair in anguish. The adult Haney, consumed by grief, his red eyes filled with pain, gets out of bed. He admits he had a nightmare. Standing by the window, he refuses comfort from an unseen person. He presses his hand against the glass, confessing that she appears in his dreams every day. He looks out at the storm, vowing he has never forgotten her. Elsewhere, a woman with long red hair awakens in the bright sunlight. She is sitting in bed with a blonde woman who strongly resembles Haney's late wife. The blonde woman asks her what's suddenly wrong. The red-haired woman smiles and reassures her mother that it's nothing, thinking to herself that it felt like someone had just called her name. The scene shifts to a grand, massive castle. Inside a spacious study, a man with glasses is overwhelmed by piles of paperwork. He pushes up his glasses and sighs that he's exhausted. A knock sounds on the study door. The man grants entry. A bearded butler enters, explaining that the mountain of paperwork concerns the Baldwin family's key financial and budget plans, which exhausts the dark-haired man. His Grace tries to delegate the review to his chief steward, Allison, but is firmly refused. Allison insists the task belongs to the lady of the house, causing the red-eyed man to frown. The butler repeats that his Grace the Duke must review it himself, and the camera focuses on the wedding ring on his hand. The man's expression remains cold and resolute. He picks up a document, accepting his duty while thinking the position of Duchess will forever remain empty. He changes the subject, asking about the previous night, and Allison reports there's no official record of anything. Allison then reveals that the residents of the Hex territory have been mining in the quarry, which angers the man. He confirms with Allison that Hex is just a barony. When Allison shows a portrait of the Baron's family, he notes they have an adopted daughter, which piques his interest. Allison explains the girl's name is Nadia Hex, and she was found wandering alone in the forest 10 years ago. The man decides to investigate personally, announcing he will go see for himself, much to Allison's surprise. He stands, stating he needs some fresh air, and Allison agrees to prepare for his departure. He thoughtfully touches the wedding ring on his finger. Standing by the window, he silently mulls over the name Nadia Hex. The scene shifts to the entrance of a quarry nestled in a rocky area. Inside the mine, miners are hard at work, their pickaxes striking the rock. An old worker is commenting on their labor when he is startled by an arrival. The red-haired woman appears, greeting the miners with a brilliant smile. The men wonder why their young lady would come to such a filthy place, but she cheerfully dismisses their concerns. Her kind words and happy demeanor touch the grateful workers. Two onlookers marvel at how remarkable she is, noting she's completely different from the girl who arrived 10 years ago. They recall how weak and quiet she used to be, but has now grown into a reliable person. One of them declares that Lady Nadia is now the one leading their territory, and as if on cue, a worker nods to her in enthusiastic agreement. The red-haired woman's expression suddenly turns serious. After spotting a small child working in the mine, she rushes forward with a warning. She gently approaches the child, explaining that the mine is too dangerous for children and they aren't allowed inside. The red-haired woman watches with a knowing smile as the child hesitates. The child explains that the Baroness is sick and they are mining to earn money for her medicine. The child asks resolutely if they can help too. The red-haired woman's expression softens, moved by their plea. She gives the child a warm, gentle smile. She praises the child for being thoughtful, but says the Baroness wouldn't want to see them working, which surprises the child. Wiping the child's face, she promises to work twice as hard to make sure their mother gets better. She ends with a reassuring smile. She clenches her fist, determined to repay the kindness she has received. A flashback reveals a bloody scene from 10 years ago, declaring that Lavinia Baldwin died that day. At that exact moment, a young, red-haired girl with yellow eyes jolts awake. A worried couple, the Baron and Baroness, are relieved to see her finally awake. They explain they found her unconscious in the forest and brought her home. She remembers knowing nothing about what had happened. The girl realizes her soul has been transferred into the body of Lavinia Baldwin. Back in the present, she vows she has no intention of returning to Lavinia's past life. Looking towards the light, she accepts that Lavinia's life was never hers to begin with. She recalls how the Hex couple adopted her, named her Nadia, and never questioned her amnesia. She resolves to use everything she gained from Lavinia's life to help them. Suddenly, the miners cry out "young lady" in alarm. She smiles in relief, thinking their efforts have finally unearthed something valuable. A miner cheers, having finally dug up glowing crystals after a whole morning of digging. Suddenly, two men in uniform appear at the mine entrance, demanding to know who authorized the mining. The workers and their red-haired young lady stare in shock at the intruders. The red-haired woman calmly asks their business, but one of them aggressively repeats the demand to know who gave them permission. She smiles coldly, asserting that this is the territory of the Hex Barony and questioning the need for permission. But a man with glasses insists the area belongs to the Baldwin dukedom. Her golden eyes narrow with firm resolve, completely unfazed by the confrontation. The dark-haired, red-eyed man steps forward, asking if she is in charge of the Hex family. She opens her mouth to respond. Her expression shifts to one of slight surprise. The man rephrases his question, asking if she is the bookkeeper for the house of Baron Hex. She clutches her chest, taking a moment to compose herself. The red-eyed man stares at her intently, waiting for an answer. He mentally notes her worn clothes and estimates she's in her early 20s. He recalls the portrait he saw earlier of Baron Hex's adopted daughter. A bearded man rushes forward in a panic, shouting Nadia. The man is Baron Hex, and he scolds Nadia for being in a dangerous place, while the miners recognize the visitor as Duke Baldwin, momentarily confusing Nadia. The bearded butler respectfully addresses his master, "Your Grace, the Duke." Nadia performs a formal curtsy. Baron Hex nervously greets his Grace, Duke Baldwin. Duke Baldwin comments that he'd heard Baron Hex had a clever daughter but didn't expect someone so bold. The miners murmur nervously, second-guessing their work, but recall that Lady Nadia had assured them it was fine. Nadia states with conviction that the property belongs to the Hex territory. Duke Baldwin, amused, asks why she is so certain. She explains that the land in the distance belongs to the Baldwin dukedom and is marked as such on the map. She points to the quarry, declaring it lies within the area gifted to her family. Therefore, she concludes with a smile, the Hex family is not trespassing. Duke Baldwin listens to her explanation, his expression unreadable. He is impressed, thinking that she somehow knows a piece of history that has been forgotten for 100 years. Nadia responds with a faint, knowing smile. Baron Hex proudly boasts that Nadia loves to read and knows all of their family's history, which embarrasses her. When the Baron calls her the pillar of the family, a flustered Nadia tells her father that's enough praise. She smiles shyly, touched by his loving words. Duke Baldwin ignores the scene and orders Baron Hex to mark the boundaries as he understands them. He declares they will review the markings to determine if the Hex family's claim is valid. As the Duke and his men ride away, Nadia and the others watch them go. Baron Hex collapses in relief, his soul seemingly leaving his body, admitting he thought they were done for. The Baron worries she might be taken away, but she reassures him, adding with a laugh that she would have taught that Baldwin brat a lesson. Her father admonishes her, reminding her of the rumors that the Duke is cold and ruthless. Nadia claps her hands, rallying the miners back to work for the Baroness's medical fees, and they respond with a resounding, "Yes, young lady." As the sun sets, Nadia's profile is etched with determination. An image of the Duke flashes by, a symbol of elegant power. Nadia gazes ahead, a confident smile playing on her lips. She walks through a sunlit field, her vibrant hair flowing behind her. The Duke thinks to himself that while he once saw her as moonlight, seeing her again feels more like the sun. Nadia closes her eyes, resolved that she still cannot return to his side. Later, Allison informs the Duke that the documents from the Hex family have arrived. The Duke reviews them, finding no evidence of forgery or manipulation. He asks Allison about their chances of winning the mine dispute, and the steward confirms a power struggle would favor Baldwin. The Duke then asks what would happen if the case were judged with reason and fairness. Allison states that the Hex family would win on a level playing field, as the land rightfully belongs to them. The Duke listens as Allison explains a century-old document proving that Baldwin had granted the land to Hex and never reclaimed it after ties were severed. Allison concludes that both sides had simply forgotten about the unattended land until now. The Duke ponders the situation with a slight smile, curious how the young Miss Hex knew about this abandoned place and the precious magic stones buried there. Allison suggests Baron and Baroness Hex were simply blessed by the heavens, commenting that the heavens helped the righteous. The Duke's expression stiffens, and he inwardly scoffs at the idea as ridiculous nonsense. He clenches his fist tightly, thinking bitterly that if the heavens truly helped the righteous, his wife should have been blessed more than anyone. The Duke abruptly stands, deciding to continue the discussion later and dismissing the steward. He pushes open the window and gazes at the starry sky. Lost in thought, he recalls meeting Nadia Hex, admitting that for a moment she reminded him of his late wife, Lavinia. He remembers her firm, crisp way of speaking, and an image of her sharp, golden eyes flashes in his mind. He turns from the window, shaking his head and telling himself he must be crazy because they are nothing alike. He looks at the full moon and speaks to his dead wife, laughing self-deprecatingly at his current state. He admits to himself that he is pathetically searching for traces of Lavinia in a woman who shares nothing in common with her. The scene shifts to a quiet room where Nadia is writing at a desk under a single lamp. Focused and determined, she closes the book she was reviewing. A short sword is suddenly held to her neck by a figure in a black cloak. The figure asks from behind if she was the one who sent the letter. The masked man threatens that she must have a death wish to dare impersonate his master. The blade remains pressed against her skin as he speaks of their time apart. Unafraid, Nadia glances aside with a sly smile, chiding her attacker for his rudeness and calling him Conrad. Conrad demands to know if she's the bastard who sent the letter. She thinks to herself how insolent he is for not recognizing his own master. Her golden eyes gleam with firm confidence. Nadia thinks that his failure to recognize her is indeed too disrespectful. The cloaked man, Conrad, curses her audacity. The edge of the sword presses tightly against her throat. She scoffs coldly, questioning his accusation of impersonation. She challenges him, asking how an impostor could possibly mimic his master's handwriting and know about the key, which stuns Conrad. She casually pushes the blade away, stating that curiosity brought him here, or he would have burned the letter. Nadia reveals his secret past as Viscount O'Delhi, reminding him he was once a slave sold to pay off his father's debts. She recounts how he entered a dangerous game to save his siblings and nearly lost an eye. She places a hand over her heart, her expression meaningful. With a knowing smile, she prompts him to recall who saved him that day. Conrad stammers in disbelief, insisting it's impossible because he saw his master's body with his own eyes. 10 years ago, she continues her questioning, reminding him of what she asked when she found him lying in filth. She recalls asking if he was struggling to survive, clinging to a life as lowly as a maggot's. Conrad takes a step forward as she declares that the one who saved him was his master, Lady Lavinia. He throws off his cloak, revealing a gray-haired man who asks through tears if it's really her. She explains with a gentle smile that since dying and coming back to life, she is no longer Lavinia, but has become Nadia Hess. Overcome, Conrad kneels and pledges his loyalty, declaring it an honor to serve Lady Nadia once more as the sole heir. She places a hand on his head in affectionate acceptance. Nadia praises his quick adaptation to her new name and understanding of his feelings, but he insists that he understands. Conrad says he knew there was a reason for her absence and for summoning him now, which she confirms. She asks for the key she entrusted to him, explaining she needs it back. This shocks him. He confirms the key is in his possession, but warns that the trail from 10 years ago has gone cold. She dismisses his concerns, demanding he bring it at once. Her thoughts turn to a firm objective: bounties. Nadia smiles with dangerous intent, revealing her plan to hunt the dregs of society and collect their bounties. An explanation reveals the key is to encrypted evidence she collected as the Duchess of Baldwin, intended to dismantle a crime syndicate. She muses that even vague leads can yield considerable profit. She considers that after liquidating an emergency magic stone vein, one can never have too much liquid capital. She remarks that as a duchess, medical fees were trivial, but Conrad stammers that he would never dare overstep. Secondly, she states she doesn't want to use Baldwin's assets for personal matters, and as for the final reason, she silently thinks of her past self, Lavinia. A dark memory surfaces, her father plotting to kill her so he could marry his mistress. She recalls her mother's terrible betrayal, screaming and blaming her for not trusting her in the past. In the past, maids whispered about the Countess's passing, the mistress's rise, and Lady Lavinia's uncertain future. She remembers them discussing the huge dowry prepared for her marriage. The sinister smiles of those who plotted against her are seared into her memory. Finally, she announces the third reason. She no longer wants to live as Lavinia Oslin. She explains her intention to start a new life with a grateful heart and asks if Conrad agrees with her plan. Conrad knows that if the world were to discover Lady Nadia is Lavinia, a peaceful life would be something she could never have. Elsewhere, Duke Baldwin sits on the library floor, reading a book. He laments his pathetic state, missing his late wife so much that he's resorted to reading her diary. He reads an entry in Lavinia's diary about flowers that reminded him of her, shimmering silver in the moonlight. He remembers the flowers clearly, recalling how he broke curfew to buy them the moment he saw them, because they reminded him of Lavinia. Her diary reveals her delight at his gift, and her relief that he was doing well at the academy. A faint smile touches his lips as he reads that she had been worried about him during their time apart. With a thud, he closes the book, thinking she should have been worried about herself, not him. As he moves the diary, a small, folded piece of paper flutters out from between the pages. He picks up the paper, wondering if it's a map of a magic stone vein marked by Lavinia herself. Considering how meticulously she managed the estate, he deduces it's quite possible and smiles. His expression turns serious as he examines the map more closely. His gaze locks onto a spot circled in red. He realizes with a jolt that it's the very same mine the Hex family recently discovered. Looking at the markings, he understands that Lavinia had known all along that magic stones were buried there. He finds it too strange and unnatural that an adopted daughter would know a century-old detail that no one else did. Above all, what bothers him most is the familiar, knowing look in Nadia's eyes. Staring at the glowing map, he questions if this is really just a coincidence. He becomes suddenly certain that Nadia Hex must know something about Livnia. He decides he must verify it himself, his expression hardening with resolve. Meanwhile, Nadia sleeps peacefully in her bed, a slight smile on her face. A memory flashes, a young, blonde Lavinia smiling brightly while holding a bouquet of yellow flowers. She runs happily down a sunny garden path. She clutches the bouquet of yellow roses, her smile radiant. Her mother walks ahead in the lush garden, holding a parasol. The little girl runs into her mother's waiting arms, seeking a warm embrace. The mother looks down at her with deep affection and love. The little girl gazes up at her mother with adoration. The mother, with a gentle, knowing smile, accepts the flowers. Lavinia buries her face in the embrace, smiling blissfully. The two share a tender, happy moment in the garden. It was a perfect and precious moment of happiness between mother and daughter. The memory shifts to a formal room where she sits beside a woman, as a voice introduces a new family member. Across from them, her father sits with his mistress and another girl, coldly instructing Lavinia to accept her new mother and sister. The little girl recoils, thinking they are all strangers. Her expression is filled with silent fear and confusion. An insurmountable, silent gulf now separates her from the woman who was once her mother. A melancholy thought ends the memory. From that day on, her mother's smile vanished forever. In the past, her mother had descended into a devastating rage. She collapses to the floor, overcome with despair. Her mother screams that everyone is after her title as Countess. A young Lavinia reports that the mistress tried to kill her by pushing her down the stairs and poisoning her food, but her mother dismisses her claims as accidents and insists there was no poison. The mother accuses Lavinia of siding with the mistress and demands her loyalty, while the girl tearfully professes her love. But her sincerity never reached her mother. In the end, only fear remained in the little girl's eyes. Her mother shoves her away forcefully. The little girl stumbles and falls backward. A maid suggests she visit her mother, whose condition is worsening, but the girl sits silently on her bed, trembling. She recoils in fear, crying alone. A man entering her room startles her. He apologizes for intruding as she covers her face. Somber rain falls on the grand estate. A young Lavinia, dressed in black, stands silently among the mourners at the funeral. That night, she finds the pain of losing her mother unbearable. Unable to sleep, she wanders the dark corridors with a candlestick. As she considers going out for some air, a cold thought surfaces. Her mother is finally dead. She overhears the mistress complaining about the high cost of bribing servants and obtaining poison. Her father justifies it, saying great effort was necessary to avoid suspicion. He raises his glass, toasting to their success. The girl freezes in the doorway, seized by absolute terror. Wow, her mother's ghostly voice echoes, asking if she had been right all along. She remembers her mother's haunting words, "And yet you didn't believe me." A ghostly hand appears as the memory of her mother blames her, saying it was her indifference that killed her. A final, heavy accusation rings out. "You're a monster, huh?" The red-haired woman wakes with a sharp gasp, breathing heavily. She sits up in the moonlit room. She hugs herself tightly, whispering reassurances that it's okay. Her body still trembles from the vivid nightmare. Gazing out the window, she resolves firmly that she is no longer Lavinia. She is now Nadia Hess. The scene shifts to another sun-drenched bedroom on a bright morning. Nadia enters with a tray, cheerfully announcing it's time for medicine. Her mother, Countess Hess, smiles warmly from the bed, thanking Nadia for her care, but Nadia insists on bringing the tray herself to chat. The Countess worries about the territory and Nadia's burdens, hoping to recover quickly. Her mother suggests she find someone to marry soon, which makes Nadia flinch. The Countess blushes, expressing unconditional support for whatever choice Nadia makes. With a sly smile, Nadia hints that she already has someone in mind. An image of a well-dressed man flashes through her thoughts. She remains, smiling thoughtfully. She gently takes her mother's hand. The Countess praises Nadia for working so hard for her father, and for the territory. Nadia's expression becomes serious and determined. The mother reaffirms Nadia's role as the heir to the Hex territory. The two share a quiet, tender moment. Suddenly, a sharp memory intrudes, blaming Lavinia for leaving her sick mother. The cruel words of her mother from her past life echo, calling her a bad child who didn't trust her. Nadia closes her eyes, a serene smile on her face, banishing the dark thoughts. Her hands rest gently in her lap. Nadia walks up the grand staircase with a tray. A girl with pink twin tails laughs excitedly. She waves energetically, calling out loudly for Lady Nadia. The girl bows deeply, excited to start her work. Her smile is incredibly bright and cheerful. An older man asks Nadia about the girl who just appeared, claiming to be her new maid. When a man questions the pink-haired girl, she brazenly corrects him. She explains that Viscount O'Delly recently had a carriage accident in the area. In a flashback, she recounts how Lady Nadia rushed to the Viscount's aid and saved him. The girl announces she's a thank you gift from the Viscount to serve Nadia, shocking everyone. She takes Nadia's hand, smiling brightly, and asking if she remembers. Nadia gives a knowing smirk, confirming that she does. She declares it would be rude to refuse the Viscount's kindness, much to the men's disbelief. Nadia happily pats the head of her new, chibi-like maid, Vivian. The older man decides to train the new maid, Vivian, himself. He worriedly asks Conrad if she has always been this excitable. With a click, the door closed, leaving the two of them alone. Conrad asks for Lady Nadia's opinion. Vivian drops her disguise and asks Nadia if her performance was natural. Nadia criticizes her for acting too familiar, and Vivian says she will keep that in mind. Nadia tells her to address her as my lady when they are in private, which Vivian readily accepts. Nadia thinks to herself that Conrad has sent a sharp one. Vivian gives a sly and knowing curtsy. Nadia asks about her special skills. Vivian smiles, her expression serene and confident. Framed by black roses, she reveals with a sinister smile that her specialty is assassination. Nadia shows a hint of surprise at this. Nadia asks what Vivian excels at, explaining that she needs to know how best to utilize her. A close-up shows Vivian's confident smile. In a dramatic reveal, she whispers that her specialty is assassination. Nadia replies, slightly surprised, "Is that so?" Nadia marvels that Conrad would send an assassin, but Vivian clarifies that she is also here to provide protection. Vivian stands respectfully, pausing for a moment. She proudly lists her many skills, including intelligence gathering, intimidation, and assassination. Nadia smirks, doubting if she needs a bodyguard in such a peaceful territory. Vivian shows playful disappointment at the lack of action. Nadia temporarily assigns her to collecting bounties and running errands, much to Vivian's dismay. Seeing her pout, Nadia asks if the work of a regular maid is too difficult for her. Vivian rallies, appearing with a full set of cleaning supplies, like a determined chibi character. Vivian vows to become the best maid, while Nadia finds her easy to handle. Vivian eagerly offers to clean, do laundry, or wash dishes. Nadia points to a large pile of documents on the table. She explains the importance of the documents, and Vivian stares in awe at the mountain of work. Vivian notes the heavy workload, so Nadia explains that her parents are unable to help. Vivian starts organizing the documents, humming cheerfully. Nadia leans back on the sofa, pleased with her new assistant. Vivian stops her work, her expression turning serious. She softly addresses Nadia as my lady, getting her attention. Vivian holds out a letter, asking if Nadia has seen the invitation. Nadia is surprised and asks where the unexpected invitation is from. Vivian reveals the invitation is from the Baldwin dukedom, shocking Nadia. The exquisite invitation is adorned with delicate floral patterns. Nadia takes the formal letter. She realizes the invitation is from the Grand Duchess Baldwin, not Haney. Vivian sits quietly, waiting for Nadia's decision. When asked if she will go, Nadia smiles and firmly says no. She fondly recalls the Grand Duchess's garden, but reaffirms her decision to abandon her identity as Lavinia Baldwin. Vivian watches with a subtle, understanding smile. Vivian expresses her disappointment, noting that the reclusive Baldwin family rarely participates in high society. As Nadia remembers that Duke Baldwin never hosts or attends parties, her expression turns melancholic. Nadia wonders when this changed and learns from Vivian that it has been this way for 10 years, ever since Lady Lavinia's death. The revelation shocks her, and she realizes Haney has been alone all this time. She recalls a younger Haney, remembering his quiet gentleness and how she had hoped her future husband would be like him. She speculates that the sensitive Haney might blame himself for her death, as the accident happened on the way to the academy. She clutches the letter, concluding this is why he never remarried. Nadia suddenly makes up her mind and tells a surprised Vivian that she has changed her mind. Nadia smiles warmly, and a chibi Vivian bursts into cheers, surrounded by fashion accessories. Vivian enthusiastically offers to handle all the preparations. Nadia decides to go and ask Haney herself why he has been avoiding society and remaining single. The scene shifts to a grand hall, where a noble woman in a red cloak is observing a painting. The painting depicts a beautiful, sunny garden by a pond. Haney apologizes to his mother for the sudden request to host a party. His mother reassures him that it's fine, adding that his other mother is enjoying it as well. She mentions it has been a long time since their last gathering, and that replies are pouring in. Haney agrees, admitting the territory hasn't hosted a party in over 10 years. His mother recalls the child who used to host parties while he was away at school. She continues, saying that the child kept the territory lively, though that wasn't her true intention. The Grand Duchess sits quietly, lost in thought. Another dark-haired woman smiles fondly, commenting on how lovely the child was. When his mother asks if Haney is trying to find someone new, his gaze turns cold. He smirks and tells his mother she must be joking to think he's worried about an heir. Haney declares with unshakable conviction that Lavinia is, and always will be his only wife. When asked the real reason for the party, Haney says it's for Lavinia. He explains that if word gets out that the Duke is hosting a party, a brief, sunny memory shows a young Lavinia lying peacefully among flowers. Haney asks an unseen person for an update on the investigation. He reveals he is investigating Baron Hess's adopted daughter, who knows information that only he and Lavinia shared. A sad memory shows Haney standing alone at Lavinia's grave. He is determined, hoping this party will finally provide a lead on her. Back with Nadia, her hair is being carefully styled for the event. Vivian claps excitedly, praising how well the beautiful new dress suits her. With a clatter of sounds, Vivian sews at lightning speed. Nadia is amazed at her maid's hidden talent and mentally says Conrad's name. Vivian pays close attention to the fit and proudly asks if the dress is comfortable. She then runs off to get food, earning an indulgent smile from Nadia. Nadia's expression becomes serious and contemplative. The magnificent gardens of the Baldwin estate are ready for the party. Nadia arrives at the gathering, moving through the other noble guests. A man, possibly the Duke, is seen talking to two ladies by the dessert table. In a hazy memory, Nadia remembers Duke Haney Baldwin. Her thoughts drift to his striking appearance. When he turns, it's as if the world turns with him. At a lavish party, he shone brightly, and she imagined praising him enthusiastically. Now, she sees him again at the garden party. He asks if she is enjoying the party, and she admits she rarely attends. Standing by a fountain, she asks if he attends parties often, but he answers that he does not. She presses, asking why not use parties to network. She admits with a confident smile that attending every party is indeed a chore. He sips his drink, dismissing her concern. His cold response momentarily surprises her. She turns away, deciding to get a piece of pie. As she eats, she reminds herself that as Nadia Hess, she is just a baron's daughter to him. A wave of surprise hits her as she realizes how delicious the walnut pie is. Haney asks if she likes it, and she enthusiastically praises the rich walnut flavor. She suddenly freezes in horror, realizing there is a walnut dish at a Baldwin family party. As he casually takes a bite, she gasps as the terrible truth dawns on her. Without thinking, she rushes to him, grabs his wrist, and desperately yells that he's eating a walnut pie. He calmly replies that he is well aware of what he is eating. He adds that of course he knows what is being served at the party. This flusters her. As he takes a bite, she lets out a terrified shriek. A memory surfaces, a young Haney falling gravely ill after eating walnuts, a food now strictly forbidden in his territory. She panics, anxiously wondering if he will be all right. She quickly curtsies and apologizes profusely for her rudeness. Haney just watches her, his red eyes unreadable. She regains her composure and looks up at him with a sharp gaze. A probing gaze. He leans in close, demanding to know who told her about his private history with walnuts and revealing his suspicions about her and the Man of Stone. They lock eyes in a tense, silent standoff. His sharp gaze narrows, warning her that he is watching her. Nadia meets his stare with unwavering resolve. Just then, Vivian arrives with cake and drinks, interrupting them. Saved, a relieved Nadia hugs Vivian tightly. She apologizes for the trouble and quickly announces their departure. Haney watches them leave, his expression cold and calculating. Once away from him, Nadia sighs in frustration, scolding herself for her reckless behavior. She resolves to be more careful in the future. Vivian notices a situation with other guests across the garden. She points to a man and comments that he hasn't learned his lesson. The man, an art dealer, is busy trying to impress two noble women with a painting. Vivian explains that he's a con artist, disgusting Nadia. Nadia thinks he has some nerve, trying to pull a scam here. Vivian encourages her, saying that taking some action will earn the respect of the Baldwin family. The art dealer continues his pitch to the ladies. He boasts about the masterpiece he has brought and turns his attention to Nadia, asking if she would like a look. Nadia announces with a sly smile that she is curious about a piece that could rival the Baldwin family's collection. She approaches, saying his words have indeed piqued her interest. The dealer suddenly looks a bit nervous. He covers his mouth and condescendingly states, "The painting is too expensive for a young lady like her." Nadia turns to leave, and a pink-haired woman gasps in surprise. Vivian scolds her lady for being extravagant, but Nadia is unconcerned, saying it's just one painting, while Vivian insists it's a bad idea. Nadia justifies the expense, revealing the funds are from the Mana Stone mine. The sneering art dealer sees an eager nouveau riche lady and decides she's an easy mark. As the dealer holds out his hand, Nadia thinks of what she truly possesses and gives a knowing smile. With a sly smirk, she wonders why he had to mention that specific piece. Nadia feigns extreme delight, exclaiming that everyone thought the artwork was lost forever. The confused dealer asks how she can be so sure without seeing it. Nadia eagerly demands they draw up a contract immediately, while Vivian sighs at her lady's nonstop performance. The two exchange a mischievous smile as the plan is set in motion. The Grand Duchess finds Nadia, with a suspicious Haney observing nearby. Nadia greets Grand Duchess Baldwin, declaring her arrival is perfectly timed. Nadia offers to gift the rare painting to Grand Duchess Baldwin, who accepts gracefully. The art dealer is stunned, wondering what Nadia is suddenly talking about. He nervously questions the timing of her gift, pointing out they haven't seen the painting or signed a contract. Nadia innocently explains that her excitement is because she is buying the Emperor's bird. The Grand Duchess asks if the intended gift is truly Pamela's the Emperor's bird. Nadia cheerfully confirms, saying she decided to buy it from Lord Royce as soon as she heard he had it. Lord Royce realizes he's been trapped by the contract, which is skewed in Nadia's favor. He tries to stall, but Vivian quickly steps forward to snatch the contract, demanding he hand it over. The Grand Duchess observes the scene with a stern, unshakable gaze. She questions how Lord Royce acquired the piece, which has been missing for a century, and he nervously claims it was through an acquaintance. The Grand Duchess openly accuses him of being a con artist who preys on others. Lord Royce laughs nervously, dismissing her accusation as a terrible joke. The Grand Duchess remains silent, her expression one of silent judgment. Two guards appear silently behind the unsuspecting Lord Royce. He panics upon seeing the guards, protesting the baseless fraud accusation. As a shadow falls, a stern command to shut up echoes. Nadia and Vivian watch the events unfold with feigned shock. The Grand Duchess, furious, condemns the man for his despicable attempt to sell the Emperor's bird. She reveals the real painting has been in the Baldwin estate all along and dares him to deny it. Nadia feigns surprise, asking how the Grand Duchess found the missing painting. She faints dramatically, crying out that she's been swindled. Vivian rushes to her side, and onlookers begin to murmur, realizing Lord Royce is a fraud and questioning his past testimonies. Held firmly by the guards, Lord Royce lets out a frustrated groan. The disgraced Lord Royce is publicly escorted away by the guards. In a goofy moment, Nadia whispers to Vivian, asking if the coast is clear. Nadia stands with the Grand Duchess. Her expression is serious. Haney arrives on the scene, demanding to know what happened. Seeing him, Nadia smiles nervously, mouthing his name to herself. The Grand Duchess explains that Lord Royce almost swindled Lady Hess, which frustrates Nadia as she now has to face Haney. Haney approaches Nadia with concern and asks if she wants to leave. Her eyes widen in surprise at his gentle offer. By the carriage, Haney thanks Nadia for stopping the scam. Despite her protests, he insists the credit is hers. He finds it surprising that someone as sharp as her was almost deceived. Nadia takes his hand, admitting it was wrong of her to trust Lord Royce without proper checks. She adds that she couldn't have told the difference anyway. Haney thoughtfully repeats her words about seeing it as a portrait of a handsome lover. He requests an invitation to her territory to offer his formal thanks, and she agrees. Inside the departing carriage, Nadia watches him with a pensive expression. Vivian asks what Nadia would have done if the Grand Duchess didn't have the painting. Nadia reveals with a confident smile that she already knew, stunning Vivian. A memory shows a young blonde woman gazing gently at a cloth-covered object. Nadia explains she knew because she was the one who found the painting 10 years ago. Her thoughts turn vicious, furious that someone would dare use the Baldwin name to scam her. She vows to make Lord Royce regret it. Her terrifying expression scares a chibi Vivian. The scene shifts to a carriage at dusk, where a voice notes that His Grace the Duke seems pleased. Haney smirks and tells his attendant that he gained more than he originally aimed for. The attendant is shocked that Lady Hess knew about Haney's top-secret walnut allergy. Haney calmly reveals he's no longer allergic, concluding her information is outdated. His expression is sharp and contemplative. He recalls how she knew the Emperor's bird was secretly kept in the Baldwin dukedom. Haney wonders how she found a mana stone mine that only Lavinia knew about. He concludes there is some unknown connection between Lavinia and Lady Hess. Haney listens as his attendant offers a simple perhaps. Haney gives a faint smile, certain that an opportunity to uncover the truth will soon arise. In her carriage, Nadia laughs with pure delight. The scene transitions to Baron Hess's grand estate. Nadia sits contentedly at her desk, humming as she reads a letter. Vivian peeks at the letter, asking about the letter from the Duke. Nadia explains it confirms the compensation from Viscount Royce. Nadia smiles, clutching the letter, thinking the Duke is a kind person after all. Vivian slyly suggests this could lead to a marriage between them. Nadia is utterly shocked by the suggestion. She quickly laughs off the absurd idea, thinking marriage is something that will never happen. Nadia tells Vivian to stop her useless daydreaming. As Nadia reads the letter, Vivian muses that despite her denial, her feelings don't seem so simple. At the entrance to the Mana Stone mine, a break for the workers is announced. The miners greet Lady Nadia and Baron Hess, thanking them for their care. Nadia discusses business with her father, mentioning she prefers a certain place for its fair prices. She suggests installing mason's lights in the mine. Her father enthusiastically approves the idea for safety. Nadia advises her father to also consider his reputation, which he acknowledges while trying on new clothes. He admits to being lost in the face of his newfound wealth and praises Nadia's cleverness. Nadia's eyes gleam with focus and determination. She recalls her biological father, the librarian who always looked down on her with contempt. A determined smile plays on her lips. She compliments her adoptive father, saying he looks wonderful. Her resolve hardens as she vows to protect this new, loving family. A carriage pulls up to the main gate of the Hess estate. As Nadia steps out, a man wonders aloud who the unexpected visitor is. A visitor named Baron Varden greets Nadia, surprised by her presence. Baron Hess asks his friend what brings him here, while Varden flatters Nadia on how beautiful she has become. Baron Varden gives a friendly but slightly greasy smile. He playfully pats Baron Hess, surprised that the miser is so well dressed. Varden puts an arm around Baron Hess, suggesting they go inside for a long talk over tea. Nadia watches this with a cold, displeased expression. She explains to Vivian that the man is Baron Varden, an old friend of her father's. Nadia internally recalls that Varden only ever visits to ask for investment money, and her kind father never has the heart to refuse. Vivian angrily asks if they should kick him out, but Nadia says it would damage their reputation. She holds up a glowing ring, deciding to wait and see for now. Now, Vivian curiously inspects the ring, asking what it is. In a flashback, a young Nadia sends a mana stone from her territory to a boy. That boy, now grown, shows her the listening device he made from her gift, to her astonishment. Vivian gushes about how much her boss cares for Nadia. As a voice contemplates, a decisive step is taken, and someone dashes through the estate. Nadia arrives with surprising speed, her expression serious and determined. Her gaze is focused as she tucks a stray strand of hair behind her ear. Laughter echoes from the end of a grand, sunlit hallway. Baron Varden compliments Baron Hess on his luck in finding the Mana Stone, and the Baron admits it's a relief. Varden sips his tea with a smug smirk. When Baron Hess asks what he means, a flustered Varden brushes it off as nothing. Varden stirs his tea thoughtfully, plotting his next move. He slyly suggests that Baron Hess should use this opportunity to double his newfound wealth. Varden leans in, revealing he is starting a new business shared only with close friends. He describes a unique northern fruit, grown deep in the harsh, snowy mountains. Baron Hess expresses skepticism, but Varden insists the rare fruit is a panacea. The mention that it cured his wife's illness immediately grabs Baron Hess's attention. A hopeful Baron Hess asks if it could end his own wife's suffering, and Varden eagerly assures him it can. As Varden insists he would never lie, An ornate device sits on a nearby table, listening in. In another room, Nadia listens, knowing Varden always hides his true intentions. She crosses her arms in annoyance, thinking about Baron Varden's duplicitous nature. Hearing her father's thanks, Nadia worries he's about to be tricked into another scam. She decides to act, feeling she has no choice but to intervene. She rises from her seat and heads for the door. The listening device on the table quietly captures the conversation. Nadia's resolve hardens. She will refuse on her father's behalf this time. Baron Varden gasps in shock, asking what was just said. The scene flashes back to Baron Hess calmly, sipping his tea. Baron Hess firmly sets down his cup and announces he is refusing Varden's great advice. With newfound confidence, he formally states his refusal of the offer. As the scene transitions in a flashback, a voice wonders. Nadia asks her father if he wants to learn how to properly refuse requests. Baron Hess admits that while he screams no on the inside, he can never say it out loud. He sadly reflects on how his timid nature has cost them dearly in the past. Nadia realizes with a jolt that her father is still haunted by past mistakes. She reassures him, suggesting the tension from not speaking up has locked his jaw. She sips her tea and confidently proposes a new method for him to try. Her father watches curiously, asking what kind of method she has in mind. Nadia demonstrates, advising him to first take a slow sip of tea to calm his nerves. Then, she instructs him to sit up straight and rehearse the line in his head. She sits with a prim, gentle smile, the picture of calm confidence. She teaches him the simple but firm phrase, "I appreciate the offer, but I must refuse." Having learned, Baron Hess straightens up, his expression calm and composed. Back in the present, a stunned Varden listens as Baron Hess explains his past failures and lack of business talent. Varden's argument about luck is cut short when Baron Hess firmly states he will no longer gamble and asks him to leave. Baron Varden's hand clenches into a trembling fist. As Nadia readies herself to protect her father, his face twists in rage. Nadia hurries up the stairs, urgently calling for Vivian. She anxiously asks if her father is all right after the argument, and Vivian reassures her. Nadia and Vivian peek from a doorway, witnessing a tense scene. Baron Varden is on his knees, desperately pleading with Baron Hess. Varden explains his entire investment in the northern fruit was stolen by bandits. He bows deeply, promising a threefold return on investment, and begs for help. From the doorway, Nadia and Vivian overhear Varden clamoring about the Mana Stone fortune. Varden smiles in relief, thanking Baron Hess in advance for his help. However, Baron Hess formally refuses, claiming he has no money. Nadia declares the fortune belongs to the entire Hess territory. Varden erupts, arguing that as the Lord, the territory's money is his to use. Baron Hess calmly explains that using that money would be a purely selfish act. With newfound determination, he declares his wish to be a responsible man. Nadia watches from the doorway, deeply moved by her father's words. The tense standoff continues, with Varden still kneeling before the Baron. Varden scoffs internally, questioning if a child's opinion is more important than a friend's plea. Varden grabs the Baron's vest, his desperation turning to aggression. He cruelly reveals that he knows Nadia is not his biological daughter. This shocks Baron Hess. Varden suggests Baron Hess marry Nadia off to repay the cost of raising her. A narration reveals his disgusting plan to marry her to the 70-year-old senile Count Iris. Varden argues the Count will die soon, calling it a perfect opportunity. This enrages Baron Hess. Nadia, hiding in the doorway, is horrified, while a grinning Vivian looks ready for action. With a whoosh, a book flies over Varden's head, startling him. An enraged Baron Hess raises a water bottle, refusing to sell his daughter to a notorious lecher. When Varden complains about using force over a fake daughter, Baron Hess furiously throws him out. Varden is forcibly thrown out of the mansion, and Nadia and Vivian watch him go. As Vivian claps happily, a stunned Nadia thinks to herself that she was about to do the same thing. Nadia proudly notes that her father not only refused, but also threw the man out himself. Baron Hess is startled to see Nadia, and she explains she came because she heard shouting. He quickly dismisses Varden's words as trash, telling her not to worry and promises to never force her into anything. Nadia reassures him, saying he will fulfill his duty. Nadia's golden eyes shine with shrewd determination. She gives her father a genuinely warm and proud smile. Nadia turns to her father and says she has a suggestion. She stands tall with a brilliant, and confident expression, a faint image of her mother appearing behind her. Nadia calls for Vivian, wondering where her maid has disappeared to. Vivian bursts through the door, shouting that the Duke's arrival is more important. A voice announces that Duke Baldwin has arrived. This catches Nadia off guard. Hearing the unexpected news, her eyes widen in surprise. Duke Haney Baldwin appears, looking stately and imposing. He calls out her name, Nadia Hess, making her flinch involuntarily. A romantic fantasy shows Nadia looking up at Haney, her hand on his chest. Back in reality, as the Duke sits before her, she nervously greets him. Nadia asks with a sly smile if the tea is not to his liking. She explains that she thoughtfully prepared a light tea, as she guessed he dislikes strong aromas. Haney's sharp red eyes narrowed with suspicion, while Nadia maintained an inscrutable, pleasant smile. Haney questioned her extensive knowledge, which she dismissed as common local gossip. He took a sip of tea, unconvinced, finding her explanation strange. He retorted that the information she possessed was not something just anyone could know. His thoughts drifted to the painting titled The Emperor's Bird. Nadia smiled serenely, closing her eyes as if she could see right through him. Nadia sternly warned Duke Haney not to even think about lying. Haney's sharp red eyes narrowed in suspicion as the memory of a colorful painting of a bird flashed in his mind. A man explained that without background knowledge, people would only see a painting of a beautiful couple. Nadia revealed that only she and her mother had seen the painting in person. Duke Haney leaned forward, his expression still filled with doubt. He demanded a reasonable explanation, especially since it concerned his wife. Haney pressed Nadia, wanting to know how she obtained information only Lavinia could have known and what their relationship was. A faint, knowing smile played on Nadia's lips. She sighed, deciding she had no choice but to tell him everything. Nadia claimed to have been an acquaintance of the Duchess, which startled Haney. She began her story, explaining that before she was adopted, she was nearly kidnapped by thugs. A flashback shows the beautiful Duchess saving a young Nadia, who said the lady would visit and tell her stories about the world. Nadia explained that the Duchess later stopped contacting her, and she learned of Lady Lavinia's death too late, now finally meeting the Duke from those stories. She finished her story, claiming she only wanted to help because he was someone Lavinia cherished. Haney let out a soft sigh, his expression softening. He ran a hand through his hair, murmuring Lavinia's name with a pained smile. Overwhelmed by grief, he curled up in his seat. Haney suddenly stood up, coldly warning Nadia not to imitate her. His gaze was now hard and unforgiving. He announced his departure and turned to leave, leaving a stunned Nadia behind. Nadia wondered why, after 10 years, she would suddenly remember her past life. She questioned why he looked at her with such sad and hurt eyes. Haney reappeared at the door, asking what she had just said. With her back to him, Nadia called the incident an accident that no one wanted. She turned to him with a gentle smile, urging him to break free from the past and look to the future. A memory surfaced of a young Haney with the Duchess, as Nadia suggested this was what his wife would have wanted. The memory of the Duchess flickered with a warm, loving smile. With a clang of metal, Haney furiously drew his sword and pointed it at Nadia's throat. Nadia remained perfectly calm, looking back at him over the blade. He angrily accused her of imitating his wife and trying to act like her in front of him, declaring that no one could replace Lavinia. His voice trembled with rage as he repeated that no one could replace her. Nadia watched him with a strange tenderness, silently thinking his name. Haney stood alone, blaming himself for being fooled by an impersonator and seeing a shadow of Lavinia in the woman. He remembered her words, wishing for him to no longer be hurt. A faint smile crossed his face as he thought how ridiculous he must seem. He quietly wondered if her words had truly comforted him. The creak of a door opening drew his attention, and Nadia stood behind it. Nadia stood alone in the room, lost in deep, melancholic thought. She told a white-haired man that Haney had come to see her. Her actions reminded the man of a past event he had overlooked. He recalled the carriage accident that led to the Duchess's death and began to suspect it was no accident at all. Heavy rain poured down on a grand, isolated mansion. The white-haired man lowered his head. His expression was grim. Nadia noted his sharpness and asked him to explain what the investigation had found. He revealed the evidence. The damp soil of the scene was deliberately placed, and the carriage wheels had been loosened. Nadia realized a horrifying truth. Someone had orchestrated her death. She understood the goal was to eliminate her so that someone else could become the Duchess of Baldwin. Nadia wondered grimly who would have seen the Duchess as a thorn in their side. A map highlighted the territory of the Crimson family, loyal vassals to the Baldwins and a family known for marriage alliances. Nadia reflected that without her, Haney would have married the daughter of Count Crimson. Her white-haired companion confirmed that rumors of a marriage proposal had resurfaced. This was within Nadia's expectations. Nadia's gaze hardened, her resolve strengthening. She declared that finding her murderer was the only way to alleviate Haney's guilt. Gazing out the rain-streaked window, she vowed to watch over Haney's happiness from afar. Her loyal companion knelt before her, accepting his mistress's command. The scene shifts to Nadia working diligently at her desk, letting out a surprised "huh?" while reviewing a document. A sudden commotion outside distracted her. Looking out the window, she asked a man named Uncle Pow what was happening. He revealed the villagers were building her a new office. Stunned by their generosity, she could only ask, what, as they promised to decorate it beautifully. Her mother's voice mentioned how grateful the people were to her. Nadia's mother entered the room with a warm smile, followed by a maid. After sitting down, her mother announced she had something to discuss. She looked lovingly at her daughter, saying her name, Nadia. The mother maintained a gentle, knowing smile. Nadia froze when her mother mentioned the debutante ball. The mother's expression turned serious, preparing to explain why. Nadia recalled her own late debut at 21 due to her family's financial situation. Her mother shared a painful memory of her own debut, where she was cruelly ostracized for her age and poverty. Nadia listened, understanding the humiliation and loneliness her mother must have felt. With a sad expression, her mother explained that she didn't want Nadia to suffer the same pain. Nadia understood her mother's feelings, but insisted she had no time for a ball. Her mother gently took her hand, urging her to set aside her work for a while. She reminded Nadia that she didn't have to handle the territory's affairs alone. A memory showed Nadia's father finding joy in his work. After her initial fear, her mother told her she had already done more than enough. Nadia blushed at a loss for words. Uncle Pow enthusiastically encouraged her, saying the Baron's daughter deserved to experience a debutante ball. Vivian chimed in, promising they would handle the mines so Nadia wouldn't have to worry. A pink-haired man whispered to her that it was a good opportunity, mentioning a message from his boss. He revealed that Count Crimson's daughter, Haney's potential marriage prospect, would also be at the ball, which immediately caught Nadia's attention. With a new purpose, Nadia agreed to attend, much to the delight of the onlookers. She smiled, pleased with her decision to face a rival. As she prepared to leave, her father worried if it was safe for her to travel with only Vivian. Nadia assured him Vivian was enough, while the maid cheerfully struggled with a mountain of luggage. She gave her worried father a firm, reassuring look. A man in formal attire stepped into a luxurious carriage. Nearby, the man was revealed to be Conrad, disguised as Viscount Odeley. As Vivian giggled at her boss's formal disguise, Nadia calmly told her father not to worry about her escort. Conrad promised to escort her safely to the capital, while her father pleaded with him to take care of her. As she neared the carriage door, something caught Nadia's attention. A mysterious golden orb of light pulsed softly on the horse's flank. Nadia gave Vivian a knowing look, who excitedly asked what she had found. Now inside the carriage, Nadia wondered if Conrad had arranged some special measures as Vivian closed the door. As the carriage wheels began to turn, her companion's vow of loyalty echoed in her mind. The villagers waved them off cheerfully, telling Nadia to bring back a fine groom. Nadia waved from the window, smiling her goodbyes. Two carriages departed from the estate, beginning their journey. Inside, Nadia and Conrad sat across from each other, traveling together to the capital. Nadia said she had heard from Vivian. She confirmed that Count Crimson and his daughter were in the capital for the debutante ball. Conrad saw it as a good opportunity to befriend the Count's daughter to get closer to the Count. He confirmed the background check on Lady Crimson was complete, but he seemed hesitant. Sensing his hesitation, Nadia pressed him for more information. Conrad reminded her that she chose to abandon her past life as Lavinia. A memory surfaced of a blonde woman gently comforting a young, dark-haired boy. Conrad suggested her interest in Lady Crimson was related to this past. Nadia smiled fondly, mentioning that Haney was now 26 and no longer a child. She gave a confident smirk, her determination clear. In the carriage, she told Conrad this mission was for her own sake as well. The scene shifts to the dark, quiet interior of a lavish mansion at night. In a flashback, the young, red-eyed boy watches solemnly. He lovingly watches his sleeping wife, softly calling her title as she wipes away a tear. Elsewhere, noble women gossip about the Duchess, saying she was lucky to marry into the Baldwin family for convenience, as the Crimson family's daughter was just a baby at the time. They sneer that the Duke will surely divorce her when he comes of age, unless she manages to ensnare him first. The young Duke listens to their pitying words from the shadows, his expression melancholic. He finds his wife collapsed and rushes to her side, asking if she is all right. The blonde woman's eyes flutter open, dazed and flushed with fever. He explains she is in his bedroom, having fainted from overwork, and insists she rest. He gently takes her hand, urging her to rest completely. The Duke begs her not to overwork herself again, but she questions his concern. She explains that they must avoid appearing too close in front of others. She continues that if she seems to be controlling him, others will look down on his authority. The Duke blushes and clenches his fist, but firmly states that it is a husband's duty to stay by his sick wife's side. He dutifully stands by her bed in the spacious, an ornate room. She gets up, insisting they must maintain their distance for the sake of his authority. Donning a robe, she announces she is returning to her own room. He watches her leave sorrowfully, wishing her good night to himself. The Duke wonders if gaining unquestionable authority will finally give him the confidence to approach his wife. In a vast and magnificent estate, a new rumor is circulating. 3 maids gossip that the reason things are missing from the house is that the Duke is secretly selling them off. The Duchess suddenly appears from behind a door, overhearing the startled maids. She wonders why he would need money and why he wouldn't want her to know. As the Duchess abruptly turns to leave, a startled maid calls out to her, but the Duchess's expression is resolute. The Duchess instructs a servant to deliver a message to the Duke. Meeting for tea in the garden, the Duchess apologizes for taking up his precious time. The young Duke smiles cheerfully, saying it is his duty to make time for his wife. As a husband, the Duchess watches him with a serious, knowing gaze. She asks him directly if he needs a large sum of money, a question that startles him. She confronts him about selling household assets to raise funds, shocking him. She calmly offers to provide him with funds whenever he needs them. The hand holding his teacup trembles slightly. A warm blush spreads across the young Duke's face, touched by her concern. He nervously denies needing money and asks who told her such a thing. The Duchess observes him quietly, wondering if the rumor was indeed false. She astutely asks if he spread the rumor himself on purpose. He confirms that his young age makes him an unlikely suspect. The young Duke maintains a calm, intelligent expression. He explains that if outsiders know of internal affairs, there must be a spy selling information. He reveals his plan. The rumor was a trap to clearly identify the source of the leak. She realizes the plan was to distinguish the trustworthy from the untrustworthy. The young, red-eyed boy declares he wants to become a dignified husband. He admits to the blonde woman that he has some shortcomings. She stifles a laugh, wondering if her words had offended him. She gently assures him that his actions will ultimately benefit the Baldwin family. The boy, moved by her words, respectfully addresses her as my lady. He recalls her kindness, remembering how she pinched his cheek and held his hand. Startled, he abruptly stands up and asks her to teach him how to dance. She is surprised by the sudden request and asks if he means for a dance. She watches him with gentle curiosity, waiting for his response, blushing. He asks for the honor of having the first dance with her. He holds out his hand hopefully, asking if his request is possible. As they dance among the flowers, she recalls that he was once a lonely child. A memory of roses surfaces, and she had hoped that even if they went their separate ways, they could ultimately remain friends. The carriage rumbles on, and she thinks to herself that she cannot abandon that child. Nadia is determined to make Haney happy. She asks for Conrad's assistance. He readily agrees. With a determined gaze, Nadia knows this is only the beginning. As the carriage approaches the capital, she vows to uncover the truth and end his guilt. A black-haired woman in a blue dress exclaims, "Wow!" on a balcony. She leans against the railing, smiling with delight at the city view. At a racetrack, a man asks for the opinion of someone named Al. The black-haired woman enthusiastically cheers for a horse named Golden Rose. The blonde man beside her gives a knowing and confident smile. She proposes a bet with the man to see who is right. The pink-haired woman recognizes Lady Urea Crimson, and her companion confirms it matches their research. From Nadia's perspective, the pair seems intimate at first glance. Nadia watches them with a sharp, scrutinizing expression. She then asks Conrad about Lady Crimson's character. He confirms her reputation is poor, but it is unverified. Nadia worries the rumors will affect the potential marriage proposal and asks where she can find Lady Crimson. Looking at a document about horses, she decides to go to the racetrack to see the truth for herself. Lady Crimson cheers as a horse gallops by. The blonde man beside her notes she has many male acquaintances. He wonders if he is her lover, while Nadia calmly observes them from the side. A waitress startles Nadia, asking if she has chosen a horse to bet on. Nadia muses that picking the winning horse would be the best way to approach Lady Crimson. A golden light suddenly flashes on the flank of a brown horse. Nadia notices the strange, flickering glow, her eyes widening in surprise. She focuses her attention on the source of the mysterious light. Nearby, Lady Crimson dismisses the horse, Great Crow, and suggests picking another. She explains that the horse's odds of winning are extremely low. Nadia watches the events unfold, her expression serious and thoughtful. Her golden eyes narrow in concentration. Nadia confidently declares that the brown horse will be today's winner. The race begins, and the horses burst from the starting gate. The announcer calls the race, noting that 2 horses are in the lead. Lady Crimson claps excitedly, shouting for Golden Rose to go. Nadia remains calm as the horses round the first turn. The announcer points out that Great Crow has fallen far behind. A pink-haired woman offers some gentle but superior-sounding encouragement. Elsewhere, a black-haired woman cheers wildly, shouting for the horse named Rose to win. The red-haired woman finds the situation strange, recalling a mysterious flash of light as the race unfolded. During the race, a burst of golden light erupts from a horse's flank. The horse surges forward with unexpected speed, stunning the jockey. The shocking turn of events leaves the audience, including the black-haired woman, completely stunned. The announcer declares that the dark horse, Great Crow, now charging hard, has moved into 4th place. The red-haired woman realizes the light wasn't her imagination, as another horse begins to slow down. Meanwhile, the announcer confirms Golden Rose is still holding the lead. Entering the final stretch, the red-haired woman cheers for Great Crow, who is now tied for the lead. The black-haired woman desperately shouts for Golden Rose to push for the win. The 2 horses thunder down the track, now completely neck and neck. As they cross the finish line, the red-haired woman smiles at the upset victory, while the black-haired woman wears a look of disbelief. Under the checkered flag, the winning jockey raises a fist in triumph. The victor rides past the finish line as celebratory confetti fills the air. The pink-haired woman celebrates the unexpected win, while the red-haired woman simply smiles with knowing confidence. The red-haired woman, with a sly smirk, awaits the reaction she's been waiting for. Just then, the black-haired woman turns, looking suddenly distressed. She clutches her chest, struggling to breathe, and asks the red-haired woman for a moment of her time. The red-haired woman reveals a subtle, triumphant smile. The black-haired woman excitedly asks how on earth she knew Great Crow would win. In response, the red-haired woman feigns an innocent look. The black-haired woman enthusiastically calls out to someone named Yuri. A blond man interrupts her, placing a hand on her shoulder and startling her. The man turns his back to the red-haired woman's group, focusing his attention on his companion. He offers a charming and disarming smile. The red-haired woman realizes the man with Lady Crimson is from the Flan family. As her white-haired companion calls for Yuri to return, Lady Crimson protests leaving, and the man suggests inviting Lady Hessa to their townhouse. Instead, Lady Crimson is taken with the idea and eagerly invites Lady Hessa to see her horses. A delighted and satisfied smile appears on the red-haired woman's face. Surrounded by a floral-like aura, she gracefully accepts the invitation. The blond man then leaves with Lady Crimson, walking along a stone path. With their business concluded, the red-haired woman suggests her party should also leave. As they prepare to depart, a cloaked figure approaches the white-haired man. He calls out for Conrad. Conrad whispers something to the man, whose expression instantly turns to shock. The whispered information concerns a document with Duke Baldwin's name and portrait. The scene shows the black-haired man with glasses carefully reviewing the same document.